Now let's talk about the new docs. So for us at WorkOS, we truly believe that documentation is not auxiliary or secondary to the product. For us, documentation is the product. So when we looked at our existing docs and we noticed that there were so many things that we could improve, we started to look at the entire journey as you're integrating. And we started to put together a framework into how we would be able to make the lives of folks who are integrating with WorkOS much easier. So that's the whole initiative and the whole goal around this project. So we mapped 8 different experiences that we wanted to improve, starting with the SDK experience. So our initial hypothesis is that developers are no longer consuming the REST APIs directly with any developer tools, really. That what we are seeing is that instead they are consuming the SDKs. And with that in mind, we wanted to approach this new documentation with an SDK first mentality and not an API first mentality. And there were so many things that we uncovered as we started to dive into that. We wanted to treat SDKs as a first-class citizen in this new documentation. So that's why we wanted to have a dedicated page, a change log, and so many different things. So let's take a look and see how that works in practice. So now when you go to workos.com/docs, you have many different pages, including the new Sdks page. And here we can look at all the different SDKs that are available and also the experimental ones. Not only the official ones that we maintain, but also the experimental ones. Here we can take a look and see that we have the latest version number, the latest dates that was released for that SDK. You can see more information like the number of stars, number of forks, contributors, and not only that, you can have different instructions based on, in this case, the different package managers that you can install the Node.js SDK. And you can keep scrolling and seeing the entire release notes and all the things that change in every single version of this SDK. So this was our way of like surfacing that data that maybe already existed in places like GitHub, but was not really visible for people who are integrating with the WorkOS SDK. The second thing that we wanted to improve was the actual content experience, the actual act of reading the content on the page. We know that some developers love dark mode, others prefer light mode, and truly this is a personal choice, right? We wanted to give that choice to the user instead of forcing one way or another. We also know that with WorkOS, there are many products that you might not be extremely familiar with. So maybe with single sign-on, you are not familiar with terms like SAML or OpenID Connect. There are certain acronyms that make it a little bit harder to integrate for the first time. So we wanted to create a glossary with those terms so you can read it right away instead of like going somewhere else to absorb that information. So this is how it looks now at the new documentation. When you go to the top bar, you can find this option to toggle the theme from dark mode to light mode. And again, this is just a way for us to say that we respect your choices, we respect whatever you prefer, and that's available for you today. We mentioned the glossary, right? This is how it looks today. You go to the docs and you find all these different terms that are grouped by the first letter. So if you want to know what is an access token or ACS URL, we documented all these terms that you might not be familiar at first if you are not experiencing the user authentication space and things like that. So this is all available right now and you can learn more about these things right away. Okay, now let's talk about the navigation. This was also a very important thing and something that we wanted to improve so you can find the right information faster. So with the new navigation, we wanted to rethink the entire information architecture based not only on the content that we have today, but the content that we're planning to expand in the future as well. And all of these things that we implemented, new navigation, is built with Radix, the open source library that we maintain. So everything now is keyboard accessible, and that just makes it easier for you to play around and navigate through the docs. So let's see how that works. On the top left, we can find this new popover over there, and I can just use my tab, or I can use my arrow keys, and I can navigate to the different items in that. I can use my escape key, enter, and I can navigate to a specific page. So that just makes it so much easier to go from one feature to the other. What about images? Images is something that people might not think much about it when they are doing documentation. You know, the tendency that we all have is to think that documentation is all about written content. But with certain products, there's a lot of images that are involved, and WorkOS is one of them. So we had about 549 screenshots of different products that we integrate with, but they were all like not following a specific standard, maybe not in an ideal state. So we went and retook all of these screenshots with a much better approach to it, and you can experience it today. So if you go to any guide, in this case the dashboard guide, you can now zoom in and zoom out on specific images, and we now have specific callouts for the parts that we want you to see and pay attention to as you are integrating. So this is just a way for you to get to the right piece of the product faster, instead of trying to find exactly what we're trying to explain here. And if we're talking about a technical product, there's obviously code involved, and we're very thoughtful about the way we display code in these new docs. We added linters for all these 586 code blocks that we have in the docs, and for all the languages that we support, not only one language or the other. And this linter, it runs on CI, so that means that whenever we keep evolving the docs and adding new content, you're not going to find typos or inconsistencies between like mixed quotes, like single quotes or double quotes, or syntax errors in whatever language you're using to integrate with WorkOS. To take a look into that, you can go to any of the guides. In this case, we're on the SSO guide, and you're going to notice right away that we have not only the Node.js, but specific frameworks that we're documenting, like Next.js and Express. You can toggle between the different languages, and we're now highlighting the specific lines that we want you to pay attention as well. In this case, we're showing that, hey, line 8 and line 12 are actually what you need to worry about in this specific context in the docs. What about the API reference? That's a huge part of the API as well, right? We wanted to document every single method and every single parameter in every API in a way that was uniformed across all the SDKs. So we did that, and we also added simple request and response objects. So you can take a look and see, okay, how can I integrate with this product right away? So if you go to the API reference page, you can now see this new tab that you can toggle between request and response. And you can also look at the method. In this case, this is a curl endpoint. So we show you all the parameters that we're exposing. What is the type, if that's a string, if that's a number, if that's an enum. And if you're in different languages, we make it so that it feels natural to that language. So we might change a couple things, like with Go, for example, we show you all the options in an object. With Java, we show you this builder parameter and how you can specify that. So that's just a completely revamp in our API reference, and that's probably the place that we most spend time on, making sure that every little detail was really optimal to your navigation and your experience of consuming that content. Another piece that we spent a lot of time on was on the search. So with search, we wanted to make sure that all of these things that we're documenting in the API reference was exposed to you as you were trying to find something. So we tried to imagine the developer who's integrating, and now they have like a specific parameter that they want to look for, but they struggle to do that in the previous API reference and the previous docs because we simply didn't have that documented or didn't index that information. So now all of this is available, and we also make sure that that search that you're doing is based on the context that you're looking for. So if you are a Node.js user or a Java user or PHP, Python, Ruby, it doesn't really matter. We're going to scope based on that particular language. So let's see that in practice. Today, you go to this search box on the top, and you can find for specific method. This is the authorization URL, and when you just press enter, you go straight to it. So extremely easy, extremely fast to get to it. Another piece, and that's related to the context-aware search, is that if I'm searching within curl, I only show results for curl. But if I happen to now use one of the different client libraries, let's say in this case Python, and I search, now all the results are going to be based only within Python. So that's really cool. That's really nice because, you know, at the end of the day, if you're implementing and integrating with one specific platform, you don't necessarily want to see results for other platforms. Nice. And last but not least, we also wanted to improve the way images and links were shared for your coworkers or other people who are consuming the WorkOS docs. So to improve the sharing experience, we looked into changing the URL as you're scrolling through each page. And that just makes it easier for you to share with someone and they get to the specific place that you wanted to them to see. And we're also generating dynamic images on the fly. So when you share a specific page, you know, we show a more compelling preview of that page. So let's see how that looks in practice. This is the template that we created using this tool called Microlink. And when you share that link, you know, any of the links from our docs on Slack or Twitter or LinkedIn, we show you like a preview that is dynamically generated based on the metadata of the page. So that's the new docs. This was a huge revamp, and this was a project that ultimately serves WorkOS users so that they can get to the information faster. You can check it out at workos.com/docs. And as I said, you know, this is a whole project based on how we can make it easier for you to navigate and find the content that you're looking for, and also that you can have a smoother integration with any of these APIs that we offer. So it doesn't matter if you are integrating with MFA, single sign-on, other logs, directory sync. We wanted you to have a great experience across the board. So put a lot of effort into this. We hope you like it. And that was it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and let us know if you have any questions. See ya. Bye.